Welcome everyone to this. You can probably already tell I'm really excited about this. Now, Corinne and I, we met in New Zealand some years ago at a CE5, and some of my best friends I've met at CE5s. It's just where people meet that are extraordinary and phenomenal in different ways. So we've kept in touch. I've visited Corinne in Canada, and uh, every once in a while we dare get on the phone together. We're always quite careful because it won't be under 2 hours once we get going. We we really do deep dives in consciousness. So when we were on the phone last time together with Augusta and Ginny, Corinne told us about her dark retreat experiences, and all of us were really, really excited about it and said, you have to give a presentation. So that's why we're here now. I myself have some questions, and I'm pretty sure you all will have questions too. So, Corinne, over to you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Una. And I really appreciate you hosting this and giving me lovingly encouragement to share my experiences. And never really did I expect that it would really be that they would have unfolded in this way. So I am very excited to share and to we'll see where this goes today and how this unfolds. So thank you for really opening up your time and everyone for joining in. And I do know this is a recording as well. So we will have some questions at the end if you have any. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and this is going to be more of a visual presentation, as much as I could really, I would say, put it all together in a way that was presentable. So inclusive of some imagery that was kind of as reflective as possible as my experience. So let's get going there, and I'll share my screen here. Okay. So this is a summary of three of my dark retreats, and I'm just going to prompt you if you're on any device. My suggestion is to brighten your devices. So because I do have some images coming through that may appear a little bit darker, so the brighter your screen is, the better it is for you just in seeing. And so my first retreat was in December, and it was for 4 nights, coming out in the fourth morning. It ended up being called, I called it the womb of creation because it was really my very first one. The second one was in February, 6 nights, coming out on the sixth morning. And that was a very, very heartfelt retreat for me, and I called it the heart of creation. And the third one being in April, just ending in just recently in May here, 5 nights, coming out in the fifth morning. And I felt that one was really more about deepening. So total time I was technically, I will say technically, in the darkness is around 320 hours, which is around 13 days. And now this is going to be around, I'm going to say, about a 75 to maybe a 90-minute talk. We will have questions at the end. And I really could only just be selective of what I experience. As you can imagine, this amount of time, I really could be here for, this could be really a weekend talk. So, and something I will mention at the beginning, going into this, I had no expectation. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, as you'll see. And I had never experienced anything like this before. So let us begin. And I do want to go into a little bit about my history, or herstory, as it could be called, of my, as I look back now, when I do a retrospect of my relationship to the dark, which it wasn't apparent to me until I started my dark retreats. And as I was younger, I would prompt myself to be in the dark. I would walk dark halls. I would go into the basements. I would walk through dark garages. And all the while, there was something within me that said, stand your ground, be in the darkness, and allow and accept. And having no understanding or no context of the why of that, it just felt, I'll say it felt natural for me, but it was also an inner prompting for that to happen. And so during the during most Decembers for me, around winter solstice, with me living in Canada, having around 18 hours of darkness, there's always an inward focus for me. It just, again, something that feels and felt natural. And so it was, my gosh, at least a couple decades ago that I was compelled to go into the darkness, what drew me in was a Vipassana meditation. And Vipassana, for those of you who don't know, it's a Burmese Theravada Buddhism practice. And it means insight or clear seeing, and referring to a deep understanding of the true nature of reality. So that's what I went into. And that was a 10-day meditation, which was I found very interesting, very beneficial at the time. And I had an experience during that meditation, which I would call perhaps mystical, and I couldn't place it. I went to speak to the teacher, and they said, that was that experience, that's jhana, that's more of jhana is, it means a deep state of concentration. And their suggestion, just maintain your equanimity and maintain your awareness. And I really sort of got the impression to disregard what I experienced. And their prompt back to me was, there shall be no clinging or no fascination, and really don't construct any identity around it, and just let it go. And so that's what I did. And so in reflection of that, and my understanding is that these types of experiences, especially in that situation, they were really less concerned about the experience itself, and really prompting the meditators to have no attachment and to have no ego inflation or spiritual craving, which I understand. I do understand that there's so much about the ego that wants to self-identify through the experience to then say, this is who I am. And this is something, as we move forward, I'm very mindful of this and I'm very aware of this. So as we move forward and as I share my experience, I am no way looking to self-identify this experience is to say, this is who I am because of this. And there's no aspect of self-importance that I at all am putting forth. Really, this is just a sharing of my experience, and really just want to simplify that in that way. So I want to move into my connection, my unknown, really, connection, maybe known, but my unknown connection with the Tibetan culture or practice, really a connection that I have had for a number of years. And it was really, my gosh, in my early 20s, which is a few decades ago now, out of the blue, I felt I really needed to connect with not only the culture, but a family. And I did befriend a Tibetan family in my 20s. And I found a family, and a young family, a couple who had two kids, and she brought over her mother for 6 months every year. And I taught her English. That was one of the things I did in my past. I taught her English, and in return, we meditated together. She offered me different Tibetan practices like cupping, different type of holistic practices. And so the very, very interesting thing that I found in that relationship is as I taught her English, the vocabulary that we created, well, really she created. She had a little English dictionary. She knew very little English, but the vocabulary that she generated was so enriching. We got about 200 to 300 words at least written down, and she connected to, and they were words like compassion, love, understanding, relationship. And I just began to get this really beautiful insight into not only the language that she was using, but this underlying, for me, this underlying feeling of the Tibetan culture. And that was kind of my first introduction. And then as time went on, I not only having a connection, therefore, to Tibet, I began to have memories that would come to me. And one of these memories was of a Tibetan monk his name is Tenzin. Now, Tenzin is a very common name in Tibetan name. And this memory of this Tibetan monk in a monastery is around 1852, 53, 54 timeframe in Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. And I will say my memory of that monk, I will say is me in that time frame, and I do have the capacity to connect with him at any time and go to him and ask him questions. So that became another kind of a clue to this Tibetan connection, which as we move forward, this unfolds for me very curiously and very interestingly. And so during COVID, a friend of mine was studying a full numbers of months meditation course. And she was studying, one of the teachers of that was a Tibetan Bon Lama. And he told the group, if you want to truly meditate, meditate in the dark with your eyes open. And this, during COVID time, this prompted me to go into my bedroom closet. This is a number of years ago now. Go into my bedroom closet, and for 2 to 3 hours, I sat and I blacked out as much as I could. I blacked out my closet, and I had, up to that point, one of the most profound meditations that I have had. And that was the beginning, that really, I would say, was the beginning of one of the beginnings of my dark retreat origins. So bring us up to speed now. In December, this recent December, I was online, and a woman was doing a 3-day dark retreat. And my ears perked up. I thought, this is what I need to do in this December time, this December solstice time. And so I looked for retreats in Canada. There was nothing here. There was nothing in Western Canada. The closest I could find was maybe in the northern states. But at that time, I certainly wasn't interested in traveling and going there. So the same friend who did this meditation, she suggested, well, why don't you do your own DIY, do it yourself, dark retreat? And I initially thought, no, that's impossible. How could I ever do that? But I was so driven, something inside of me, something other inside of me, and I don't know what that was, really propelled me forward. And so without any experience and without any expectations, I I decided, yes, that's what I was going to do. So I did it. And so, so I am showing you, I'm going to show you some pictures here of what it actually looked like. Again, complete novice, no experience. This was my bedroom window on the left, dark retreat number 3. That's how I covered my window. You can see the painter's tape there. This was a little bit more sophisticated, actually, admittedly. There's little finishing nails that I actually pounded into the around my windowsill to keep the fabric up there. And so my two major windows were my bedroom window on the left and my bathroom window on the right. And you can see more painter's tape there. And I will let you know that some of that painter's tape came in later, not even at the time that I initially set it up. So my other point of light would be is my bedroom door, and that's what that looked like there. So, and another point of light that would come through that I had no idea was my bathroom electrical outlet. And this, you can see the numbers of layers of not only a duct tape, but then painter's tape that I continuously added over time to try and prevent the tiny, tiny little green light from coming out. And who knew? I certainly did not know, but you can see my attempts at that. So keeping all of these images in mind, that is what how I tried to prevent the light coming through. So these are a little bit of more FYI and for your reference of how I kind of set up my room. I have a supply bin, one bin that I would have dry food in. And I would only and always ever go to this bin, knowingly that it was always in the same spot. And I would always take things in or put things out only in this bin. So on the right is my little mini fridge that after that did not come in dark retreat number 1. I had a cooler, which was a little messy with ice and melting, but I graduated to a mini fridge. And you will see there is no light in this mini fridge, which was very helpful. Although I just would have maybe unscrewed the light, but that was a game changer for me when I went into my second and third dark retreats I put in my closet in my bedroom. So now I am going to go through quickly, and I will let you know that these are highlights of recommended and not recommended. And again, just this page and just this information truly in itself I could go on for at least 3 hours, but I'm just going to give you highlights here. And so what is recommended in the physical space, if you have a private bedroom attached to a bathroom, that is recommended. If you are on your own and your space is empty, that's helpful so you don't have interruptions. And for me personally, to have access to water, for example, a bath and shower, that was very helpful as well. So not recommended is if your bathroom is not connected to your bedroom. However, I will say that if your bedroom is not connected, you can use eye blinds, really eye blinds that are very good and that cover all of your eyes to go out and come back in. And that could simulate the darkness as well. And I would not recommend, honestly, having additional people in your space or families or family members or any family obligations. It just offers you distraction. And that is the last thing that from my experience, were distractions. So that would not help. So in terms of food, my 100%, which I have not hit this point yet, is to have meals delivered to you. um, through the door and maintaining darkness somehow. And to have, if you're going to do it yourself, then to have a little mini fridge with no light bulb. So not recommended. I do not recommend fasting. Fasting is a whole other realm of attention and also distraction that for the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, I personally, that's not something I want to integrate in or trying to navigate, because that's a whole other journey in itself. So it was more than enough for me to deal with the dark retreat than to deal with a fasting protocol. And yes, I would not recommend a cooler with ice. That got a little messy for me. So the light coverage. Definitely cover windows and doors on a sunny day. I did not do this on my first dark retreat. I covered it on a cloudy day, and we'll hear about that. I would recommend using 100% blackout material. I still have yet to procure this material. It's coming. I will re-enter the dark retreats back when coming this maybe I would say as early as October. I'll start to reintroduce it again. Right now it's summer for me, so I'm all about being outside, and we have now 18 hours of light. So it's just, and I need to be outside. So that's my next round of dark retreats. And definitely have painter's tape and extra fabric ready. That would be my recommendation. Not recommended, as I mentioned, cover windows and doors on a cloudy day or at night. And definitely do not use garbage bags, which I did. I'm just letting you know all the things that I did that didn't work, or any thin kind of materials. So mental preparation, I had intentions mapped out for each day, and I did write them down previous, at least a week beforehand, but I started writing notes numbers of weeks beforehand, and they would be general, and then I would map them out into each day and how I would want each day mapped out. And then by the time I got into my dark retreat, they would be memorized, and they would come naturally to me. And so I don't recommend just free flowing and just going into a dark retreat without any intention. So emotional preparation, I personally, this is my opinion, to have as much conscious awareness of you as you being the point of creation of what you are, and having a very grounded self-awareness. We'll go into that a little bit later, why that would be important. I do not recommend people going into dark retreats who are mentally or emotionally unstable, who are afraid of the dark. And I believe that's why somehow I started to prep for this many, many, many years ago. And that was an extreme help for me. I also suggest that if a person is not patient, this might be a frustrating process. So navigating the physical space, 100% recommended. Always walk with your hand in front of you. Otherwise, it can be very dangerous, i.e. broken noses or bonks on the head. Every single dark retreat, I have hit my head because I did not have my hand in front of my face. So it sounds very simple, but it's very critical. And in terms of placing things in the room, I would always have a consistent and specified placement of spots. For example, water bottles, or if you are changing clothes from the day to night, always put clothes in a specific spot or area so you know where they are. I have had water bottles lost for at least an hour, having no idea where they are. So, and one of the things I would not recommend is to be overconfident and quickly moving around in the space, thinking that That to me is just sort of a bit of an ego, and it's just very humbling. It's very humbling to walk around and move in the darkness. And I found that I really, really, really slowed down, and there was almost a sense of grace that came in with me, and very much being a grace and presence. That's what came through. So do not recommend leaving items in random places. So there we go. That's a little bit of a brief outline of a recommended, not recommended. So I do want to go through on the day ones of each retreat, and here there is an image here of my bedroom window, and I will share with you there are many, many layers of fabric on this window because this was the dark retreat that I covered this window when it was a cloudy day. So going into light coverage, on my first dark retreat, in the realization that light was coming through, I had to spend half a day in the dark going into my closet to find sarongs, to find bed coverings, fabrics, and with a chair. And you can see on the top of that image there, with painter's tape, taping numerous layers of fabric up on the wall there. And I found that as I was, because I was in this process of doing, I was trying to see, and at that point, there wasn't the transition from me just being in the dark and not seeing. My eyes were trying to see, and which wasn't possible. And especially because I was working with tape and working with fabric and working through a physical space, there was still a disconnect from my mind to its desire to actually see the space. And so what ended up happening, my eyes became very sore, and I ended up having quite a headache for that first day, and also moving into the second day. I also found that there was a transition from doing to being. And although that first half of the day was all about doing, when that was done and the light then therefore I was in complete darkness, my reflection was that there really needed to be a transition in my mental space, my mind, that I needed to shift from a doing person to a being person. And that was a revelation for me because I carried that then through all of the day ones into my next dark retreat, that the day one would always be that transition from doing to being. And that then is what I carry through with me now is how am I being versus what is my perception of me as a being, as a doing being, if that makes sense. So as a result of this day one, I was very, very tired, and my brain wasn't used to, my body wasn't used to, none aspect of my being was used to the darkness. And I probably went to bed that night at maybe 8 p.m. So as I shared, yeah, my next dark retreats on the day ones, I do minimal doing. I minimize any doing, and my focus became a presence, became interconnection, and really gratitude. So that really, it was almost like a gift for me, being now going into all of my uh, next dark retreats. I really focus on the day ones, is just coming into presence and reviewing my internal questions. So, and in general, as I shared, all of my dark retreats are mapped out with my intentions and reflections for each day. So I will also generally say that water is very important to me. Showers, it was really lovely to be in water. I didn't know this. I had no idea that this would be this way. But being in showers and having baths they were remarkable experiences. So I want to go into, as I shared with you, and I posted the image on the top right, that window itself, there was light seepage and light was coming through. And as I was working that first half day, and what I heard in my mind, as I could see this light coming through, this light, it said, "This is false light." And I had no idea what this meant. No clue. However, because it came through so clearly, and not me, this is not my language. And I know when things come through kind of in not my language, it's an important message. So I sat with this message. I knew it was important. I had no context to what it meant. And in fact, this message didn't become clear until the second dark retreat. And so I kept this message with me for a number of weeks. And December until February. So it was a number of weeks forward. This was one of the questions I took into my second dark retreat is, what do you mean? What do you mean by this is false light? And so dark retreat number 2, day 1, again. Now this is the second dark retreat. I'm going into it. I'm a little bit more accustomed to it. I'm understanding the light coverage. And there was, you can see on the top right, top left, my bedroom door, there was light coming through. And what I heard, the false light will play tricks on you. And I thought, oh, here we go again. This is another message of this false light, which this was a good thing for me because this was what I was going into. And what ended up happening is that the light from the door that was at the end of my room, and I was at the other end of my room. I have a meditation chair that I sit in. There was a small light that was dancing in my room. And I initially thought, oh, this is a light that has shown up. But then I heard the false light will play tricks on you. So I stood up and I walked over to my door and I realized that that dancing false light that appeared to be in the room, nowhere near that door, was in fact, it was a projected light. And it looked like it was a dancing light, but it wasn't. So this is what I then took into a deeper reflection of what is this false light? What does this mean? So my question, what is this false light? And this went far deeper than I ever imagined. And so it really went into, there is an energetic veil of a structured disconnection of relationship existing as this Earth's programmed matrix. And so what has happened with the individual, there's been a separation within the individual self. And what has happened between generally the ages of 0 to 7 or 0 to 14, if it hasn't happened between 0 to 7, is that there has been a stepping out of love, or the love has been compromised in a certain way. And this is generally through the family structure. And if it hasn't come through the family structure, this compromise of love, meaning stepping out of love, then it will come in the 7 to 14 age range through peers somehow. And that really, when we step out of love, or love has been compromised, and love being the true state, we go into confusion, we go into a lack of agency, and then we go into a lack of control of even what we are. We go into a lack of power. And this is the lack of love state. Then therefore we carry forward. And this becomes what this reality, therefore, begins to reflect. In that confusion and in that separation, our minds begin to fragment. And we want to, because love has been compromised, we want to favor our hearts. We want to protect our hearts from being hurt, from whatever that family situation is, the peer situation. We desire to stay safe and protected. And this creates a false identity of the belief of who we believe we are. And so what has happened as a result of that, humanity has separated from its connection and of creation, not only as humanity, but as individuals, in favor of the materialistic identified reality of what is on the outside. And the individual is identifying themselves from what is on the external rather than from what is on the internal. And really, that is an inversion of self. And so, as I have come to understand, and also at a very young age, our planetary systems are in support of the love of power. And this has created a separation consciousness. So, this has also then has created a veil of separations within our own individual beings as to who we are versus what we are, and also a veil of separation of the earth. So it really has come to a misidentification of self, which is that inverted reality, which is the false light. And these messages that were being given to me, this after this came to me as I sat in meditation in my dark retreat number 2. Now, these images came into my mind's eye. And this is what I saw: the fragmented mind reality, the imprisoned heart, the veil of separation. And so, however, what also came to me is that now we are in a remembrance and realization in the truth of what we are. And we're transforming from the inside out. And so rather than being the love of power, we are inverting that back and reclaiming that and restoring that into the power of love, which is really the unity of self, and into the reflecting in the global consciousness. So that was my reflection on false light. That's what came of that. So I would like to speak about the light in my dark retreat. And again, referencing, I had no experience, not even research or historically or understanding, very green, very novice. And only after my first dark retreat did I think I need to look into this a little bit more. So this is the very little research that I looked into this, because I needed context to understand what I ended up experiencing throughout the days of my darkness. So in prolonged darkness practices across many traditions, the nervous system passes through the ordinary sensory calibration phase that occurs around 24 to 72 hours. And this, again, this information I didn't know. So what is suggested is that after days without light, the pineal gland releases a number of things, inclusive of melatonin, DMT, really allowing perception to expand beyond the human perception and concept of reality. So this interestingly, synchronistically, came through as I was just looking this up very briefly. So Dochen is means perfection or great completion, is a tradition in Tibetan Buddhism and Bon, focusing on realizing one's true nature and achieving enlightenment through direct experience. Now, this is the same pathway that my friend who was studying her meditation, that Tibetan Lama suggested to her to meditate in the dark with the eyes open. And that came to me. And this is then what popped up to me through my research. And it very synchronistically, things started to be shown to me that there is, I feel a connection here. There's some connection happening. So in dark retreat traditions, whether Tibetan and Taoist internal alchemy or the cave yogis or the shamanic lineages, they all have descriptions of an inner luminosity, geometric or stone-like architectures, kind of cavernous spaces appearing, multi-dimensional textures, the radiant fields that can be seen, and it's called the dark retreat itself is described as a living darkness, holographic or hyperreal perceptual phenomena. So I wanted to share this on the outset, just to, as we go into what my experiences ended up being. And so after 36 hours of each of my dark retreat, 1, 2, and 3, I began to see a scintillating luminous light. And it appeared when it was above me, it appeared very similarly to the image on the right. And when it was above me, it was quite mandala-like, similar to this, and always to the back plane of my body. It was never in front of me. It was above, beside me, below me, never in front of me. So what ended up happening is that after this period of time, I started to notice that structures in my space became visible. And these structures, I could see whether my eyes were closed, whether they were open, whether my hands were over my eyes, whether there were physical objects over my eyes. One time I put a book over my eyes, and it made no difference. I was not seeing through my physical eyes. And so the surfaces in my room were not synonymous with the physical room. So there were two realities coexisting at the same moment. And so what I was seeing was not reflective of the physical space. So what I perceived holographically was not, for example, I could touch a wall that was not reflective, from what I could visually see. So this was absolutely beyond, I can honestly say, what I would think my human mind could ever perceive. I had no context of this at all. Now, one of my questions I do have for myself, is this a memory? A memory beyond this, in this physical incarnation that I call myself, my name as Corinne? That is a possibility. And I have heard, and I don't know, again, I have researched none of this as to what other people have experienced, and perhaps others in the more contemporary modern times have. I did only hear one person share an experience because I was looking like, what is this light? And he said, a current person, he said he has experienced, he said, tens, 50, 60, 70 dark retreats, and he has never seen anything visual. So I don't know how commonplace this is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. What I will say, as the progression of the progression came into dark retreat number 3, the lights, the quality of the light became more luminous, and I would say even unworldly in terms of the color and the depth and the richness. So I will be interested to see what happens in dark retreat number 4. So let's go into this light. And my question is, what is it? So again, this is more of a research because I really needed to somehow have a context of this, wondering whether I was crazy or is this somehow rooted in something that I could understand. So again, going back into the Dochen and dark retreat traditions describe a spontaneous appearance of, and this is what I really curiously and synchronistically found, that they saw mandalas, and every time a check mark is there, I experienced it. Luminous architecture, tunnels, rocks, textures, dimensionality, autonomous geometric environments, colored spheres. I did not experience that, I would say, yet. And some Taoist texts similarly speak of inner landscapes, caves, mountains, or forests. I experienced forests, crystal chambers, energetic terrains arising internally during deep sensory withdrawal, yes. And so just in this just short list that I found, it was a 10 out of 11. And I do ask myself, again, is this perhaps a memory for me? And others may call it contact with primordial awareness or clear light or union with divine or higher vibrational consciousness, even the emanation of self. A friend asked me, do you think it is your light? The light is that emanating from you, and that absolutely, potentially, yes. So I'd like to share now what I saw, and these are sort of replications of what I saw, not exactly, but as close as I can get. So my surfaces, again, all seen holographically in my space. In the beginning, they were primarily rock walls and they were caverns, and they were continuously changing shapes and sizes, actually. So very slowly, and I don't know if you can, an actual on the page here, there are waves, just the design of the page here, they're slowly changing. This was very similar, almost, maybe this might be a bit faster, but to the speed that the shapes would change and the colors would come in. As you can see that going across the page, very slowly, it was always in a constant motion. And to me, it was very alive. So it wasn't static at all. So later in the number 2 and 3 dark retreats, recognizable scenes would appear, and I outlined some of those, and you'll see those later. The sizes of these caverns could be from right to left. They could be 10 to 40 feet, huge, and plus, even more, higher, lower. They would curve underneath me and they would go down 100 feet. It felt like I was sitting on the edge of a cliff wall. And in front of me, I saw, for example, 80-foot, really tall, rocking, narrow corridors. Not And sometimes even smaller. They would even come in close, 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 right tight next to me. And someone who is claustrophobic, I just don't know. That might be a challenge for people on that front. So some of the surfaces I experienced, again, with eyes closed. This is all holographically. I saw in my space. Rocky surfaces, they were slate-likes, um, stone surfaces, different rock pebbles, larger rocks, round river rocks, lake rocks. So also, alternatively, they would be changing colors. Sometimes it looked like fine slow or like interlocking small rectangles. And again, always changing formation and always slowly changing colors, shifting from color to color. This was really curious to me. More in my dark retreat 2 and 3, I would look to see what would be like a grapes, clusters of grapes along the wall. And then 2 and 3 would be broccoli, look like broccoli clusters. And I wondered, I do eat broccoli. I wondered if maybe I was eating too much broccoli. And that was like, you have an abundance of broccoli. It's time to stop eating broccoli. I don't know about that. But anyway, it was curious. And it just to reflect the textures that would appear on these cave walls. So going into, there will always be base colors that would come in that would again be continuously changing. And the base colors would be white, brown, black, gray, brown's a couple times there, red, dark red, and white. And a note on this white here is that when the wall was white, it was bright because the light was behind me. And at one point, when the light was behind my right shoulder, it was so bright. I thought, this light is so bright that if I put up my hand, I wonder if I could get a shadow. Now, to give you context, when I lifted up my hand, I could not see my arm. So I could see nothing physical ever. However, I could see the outline of my arm. It would be like an energetic outline. So I can see the energetics outline of me. When I put up my arm in front of this light that was behind me against this white surface, I saw the shadow of my arm on the textured wall. And this to me was astounding because to me it literally reflected and it literally reflected that there is an emanation of light because I could see a shadow. Now, again, not on the physical wall. There's nothing physical. This was a holographic wall. And I experimented with this many times that I could see a shadow from my arm or my hand when I moved it up and down. So just a few more samples here of textures and colors that came through, the browns, kind of like the reds, and as close as I could get the one on the bottom right. It's not exactly, but white, and they were like white balls of snow. A little bit more surface and colors. These are overlay colors. So these colors would come on top of the other colors. And yeah, so on top of, so we get a white, blue, cherry reds, crimson, orange, brown, grays, black, teal, purple, starry, midnight blue sky, robin egg blue. Really, really beautiful. I cannot share how incredible it was to be in this space and these colors to come through. And just like, I just couldn't make this stuff up, truly. I can't really capture the mauve that came in, that the really beautiful mauve. On the right, I was having a shower, and this truly, like, almost captured it, but the not the shower walls, but the holographic surface, which was probably, I would say, 3 inches further than the shower wall, was this type of surface. And I could see that water was coming coming up from the wall, if that makes any sense, and the little water droplets, that just phenomenal. I stayed in the shower for so long, just wanting to experience this, because I mean, my human brain was just, just so mesmerized with this. Anyway, um, colors that would come through. Now, dark retreat number 2, and this was a very heartfelt retreat for me. When I became very heartfelt at certain circumstances along the way, that came through. What ended up happening is, somatically, as I felt this emotion come through, the color rose would then be projected, or I would see on the walls, and I'm thinking, well, this is very indicative of, me, my creation, me being the creator of this reality, and then it's being reflected through this imaging and the rose color. So that became very curious for me. Uh, Really beautiful. Cannot capture it here at all, but incredible greens and gorgeous teals and blues appeared, that just beyond, I would say, beyond this reality. It actually, if I was to describe it, I also lucid dream, and uh, one lucid dream I had, my intention was to go in and say, is this lucid dream reality? Is this reality the same as this waking state? And I picked up some sand and I looked at the sky, and I, without a doubt, it confirmed my understanding that that reality is the same as this one. And as I looked up at the sky, the colors were more luminescent and they were more vivid. And this is like a remembrance in these dark retreats, is that there were unworldly colors similar to my lucid dreams. So again, trying to capture this, dark retreat number 3, the colors became more luminescent. The incredible burgundy, orange, pink, which I don't know that I captured that, but best of my ability here. And the blues really popped out in dark retreat 3. The blues and the greens, there were underwater scenes as well, which we'll get to a little bit, really, really came through. Much more than dark retreat number 1, actually. I think dark retreat number 1, I was just navigating what was going on and trying to just hold on to reality, really. Uh, and this came through more in dark retreat 2 and 3, they would be split wall colors. These are actually, I got these very close to very real, what this looked like. I was very happy with this because often I can't replicate. These are horizontal. They would also be vertical. They would be vertically come in. So this is what it would look like as one color had moved in. Another color was kind of behind it, and that kind of gives you an indication of how the colors would change and how the colors would a little bit overlap each other and move in and out. So, wow, so much happened at night. I kind of giggle at nighttime because it's all dark, but nighttime was a whole other realm of imaging, I would say, that I had no idea what was going on. And so, nighttime, the walls were often covered by various imaging and colors, again, all seen holographically. And for example, the image on the left, I would often see, very often, and this was across all dark retreats, I would often see palm leaves on the walls. And this is, I will note, I didn't need to open my eyes for this. I could just bring my awareness to my eyelids with my eyes closed, and I could see this on the walls. And yes, as I shared there, and on again the as the dark retreats continued, the images got a little bit more. I would maybe say structured rather than just being in a cave. And dark retreat number 3, I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the washroom. My entire room, this is very, very similar to what it looked like, was encased in mahogany walls. And I, of course, waking up from sleep, opening my eyes, and not really needing to open up my eyes, it'd be there anyway. I needed to, and if you can imagine, the entrance to my bedroom was right at the back of that wall. I had to walk right through that wall and into my bathroom. And when I was in the bathroom was also encased in these mahogany walls. So this is just to give you an understanding of what was going on. Yeah. So this is one of the things that I wanted to share, and I wanted to include in this is that fear, and so false, and I see it as false evidence appearing real. And dark retreat number 1, uh, as the colors came in, this very, very, very dark wall of red started to appear. It started to appear as a red, and then it got darker, and then it got darker, and deeper. And the deeper it got, the more strangely and unknowingly, the more uncomfortable I got. It's almost like I had no idea that this uncomfortableness was in me, but whatever the richness and depth of this color was, it triggered something in me, and I began to associate this deep, dark, 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 dark red with the devil. Strangely, I guess that was within my subconscious, which was up and coming through. And this created, as soon as I thought of devil, what it then appeared are images of skulls and demons. And I thought, oh, okay, here we go. I connected this depth of dark red with the devil. This then started to appear. Thankfully, I knew, and truly, thankfully, I knew I was the source of these images, and that this was not an um, externally generated devils and demons coming to visit me. And so in that moment, it was such a fantastic learning moment for me because it allowed me to really understand, really in the larger context of my subconscious thought forms and where the fear came from and how I make up stories in my mind. And just a reflection of not only of this experience, but I always do my best to translate everything, especially through my dark retreats, translate anything that's whether it's in life or in my dark retreats and translate it to life itself. And so that really allowed me to understand that I am the source consciousness of really my creation. And I will share with you in dark retreat number 2, the red appeared again, and the red got deeper again. And what ended up happening, it started to creep towards me like it does. That's kind of, the colors can come towards me, and it came up to my feet, like I would say a rock wall with very dark red stone wall, and that holographic imagery crept towards my feet, up my legs, got up to my knees, and I just looked at it very calmly and said, no, I'm not affected by this. And I disregarded it. And that charge wasn't there, that trigger wasn't there, and it never happened again. So in dark retreat number 3, and I was very aware of fear from that point on, based on where my thoughts may go and where then what may be generated. And it was very interesting, dark retreat number 3, because not that I went to fear at all. And again, through my past decades of being in the dark, I really do feel I had prepped myself. And dark retreat number 3, there were brief, very brief moments of images that would appear, but I will honestly say were not mine. And so, like, helmeted, like a helmeted figure, like male with a helmet on. I didn't really have a context to. And so what ended up happening from those points on, I just disregarded them, just allowed them to pass away, like pass on, really, and just not be affected by them. And I from that point on, fear, I felt kind of like I had conquered the fear of the darkness from that point. So now, I question, are solo dark retreats meant for everyone? Um, and I will say, if someone is psychologically unstable, or there's an instability there, or they have unprocessed traumas, I really feel like that any trigger points like this may not be the best environment for people. Just because a person must be able to manage not only their own fears, but really understand the root source of their subconscious, their conscious, their unconscious, their superconscious. And that really needs to be an understanding within that. So that may be a challenge for some. They may not be able to, on their own, as a solo dark retreat investigator, I guess. They may not be able to manage that. That might be a little bit too triggering for them. So one of the questions I had, my intended questions, and I'm going to go into this with you, is in dark retreat number 2, I wanted to know about my blueprint for this life. And what was it? What was it about? What could be shared with me? And so this is what I went into it as an intended question. So really wanting to connect into basically the deeper truth of what I am and gain clarity on this life's blueprint. But first, before the blueprint came through, what I saw, and this is not holographically now, this is I saw in my mind's eye. What came through first was my life script. And as you can see on the top right image, fairly similar, but a scroll, an old ancient scroll that was on a table that was kind of rolled up. This came through as first, before we look into your blueprint, we would like to outline what your life script is and the purpose of that, and to give context in moving on to the blueprint. So knowingly that my life script was being shown to me, I then said to myself, okay, well, my life script is being shown to me. I'm very curious to see and to reveal my energetic patterns that are running as subconscious default programs, knowing that these programs hold resistance and separation. So that's kind of created another question for me. What is that for me? Show that to me so I can clearly see, therefore, to understand, to integrate, to reharmonize. That's kind of my process to be able to see clearly is then therefore be able to integrate. So this is what I was shown in my mind's eye. The moment that my soul anchored itself into the body, a live, continuous recording of my interpreted reality began. And that began the life script. So that is sort of a recording in itself. And so throughout childhood and into adulthood, I was able to see how the internal and external conditioning created this ego mind as this interpretation of self, this interpreted identity. And by the late teens, I could see as I was being shown this life script going back, I could see by my late teens it consolidated all of the interpretations of this identity into the quote who it believed itself to be. And that had already solidified itself to a really and culminating all of the past experiences. And that as shown as a life script. So as time went on, as this life script was unfolding for me, as I could see it in my mind's eye, it became a sort of an entanglement and confusing relationship because the mind had stepped into a power and appeared to be in power, but on this alternatively, my heart knew this wasn't the true source of power. And this is what I call the gap. What the mind believes itself to be true, and the who of what it believes, and the what of what my heart knows it to be. And that space in between is the gap. And so there was a cumulative effect of this loss of sight, and this loss of sight into what I am created this weight in my heart. And what was shown to me, this weight caused, it looked like a ball and chain that I was unknowingly sort of dragging behind me, not even knowing what this weight was. And it was causing me these kind of like these micro frustrations, like just under my skin. And it's just, and if any one of you are connected to human design, I'm a emotional manifesting generator, and my not self, when I'm not in the truth of myself, I'm in frustration. And I can honestly say that over my lifetime, I had these micro frustrations that I could never really identify. And until this moment is that this frustration ultimately was this gap between the knowing of what I was in my heart and this identity that is called a human, called Corinne, in a female body in this realm called Earth, make believing that was true. So I also recognize over time, as I was shown my life script, that this gap also created distortions in my field of energy. And we will go into my field of energy. So this reconciliation of who I believed I was and what I am started descripting. So this life script started to descript actually when I was 9, and I had quite a revelatory experience at 9. So that was the script. And so then once my script was shown to me, again, this is in my mind's eye and not holographically, uh, I requested from the Akash, the realm of the Akash, which I see it as it has come to me as a realm of potential and possibility of the divine mind. I have always seen it in golden, flickering light that's told is mana. And I've seen a temple that to me always somewhat replicated when I went into a little bit of research in it, ancient Hindu, for some reason, again, going back to an Eastern connection, ancient Hindu temple. So that's how it appears to me. And so, yeah, the Akash is the energetic records of soul's experiences throughout all time and space. So I went into the Akash to go into my blueprint. And so I went into what I was taken into is in pre-incarnation, and I was in consultation with a group of beings that were reviewing the intentions and key experiences for my life. And there was an overarching direction for this life that was outlined by my soul's intentions that were translated into my life purposes, and therefore, being these life purposes, they were therefore then translated or transcribed into the desired experiences that I would have for my evolution of this lifetime. So I was then shown a 2D blueprint, the image in the middle, and that 2D blueprint had it was always illuminated like in a blue, the blue lines, there were blue lines through it, and there were marker points, very small blue marker points that represented pivotal experiences and relationships that I was to have in this lifetime that were already embedded in my blueprint. So there was a process to this blueprint. There was like a two-stage integration to these marker points, these small points on my blueprint. So one stage of these marker points was that number one, when a marker point was acknowledged, the acknowledgement of the experience is what activated the marker point on the blueprint. So all the marker points are there. Stage one, when I acknowledged that it was a marker point, for example, I had again a 9-year-old significant experience. It was an awakening experience, and I remembered it. That marker point would light up on my blueprint. It would become activated. And then, secondly, with that marker point, after acknowledging it, once I consciously integrated the significance of that experience, integrated and harmonized with it and really embodied it, that marker point illuminated that node to a point where it became activated with any adjacent marker points next to it. So you can see in the next image, on the third image, those marker points connecting to each other. And so many of the primary marker points that mostly appeared in my teens actually, were acknowledged. And the more time throughout my entire life, I still continue to consciously integrate these, and they become embodied within me, the more they reveal the significance and purpose of what and why they were placed in my life. And this creates then a further em embodiment and embedding of this network of these nodal points, and they continue to strengthen and expand. And so the more they expand and the more they strengthen, they create an overall coherence within my blueprint. And my blueprint, the potential and possibility of that blueprint, therefore becomes stronger. So my understanding then, therefore, is that I have had a call and I have heard the call from my soul to recognize, meaning to know again, the true essence of creation, that I am beyond the identity of what my mind script has believed itself to be through the physical form and the body and the reality that it came into. And so that was what was shared with me on my blueprint. And I do, and again, we would be here for much longer time in these significant experiences that came through, continue to come through, not only as these marker points, but that I continue to embed. And when they have come to me, it's kind of like a package of information. Something has happened, it's significant, it unfolds, and it continues. And I can only really say, like, much like in a quantum way, that it's like yes, like a package of information that is there for me to access. So, let's move on to the forest. And this is in Dark Retreat number 2. And this is, again, a very, very heartfelt retreat for me. And this was intention. I called it the Heart of Creation intentionally beforehand. I put that intention in because I feel the heart is the key and the doorway to the truth of what I am, the soul of what I am. And for that to be the topic of the whole dark retreat, I felt it needed its own placement. So this was an experience that came to me. So I was sitting in my meditation chair, specifically in Dark Retreat number 2. Now, number 1 and number 3, they also visited me, the forests, but this was very deepening on number 2. Now, this is holographically. This is not in my mind's eye. As I was sitting in my chair, first that came to me were the spruce and the pine forest, and I'm very, very connected to forests. And these forests where I live are very prevalent and very common, and I love them. I often visit the forest 2 to 3 times weekly if I can, just in my little local forests that are near me. And so as the forest, this specifically the spruce and pine forest, came and surrounded my chair and surrounded where I was. Now, remembering, I'm now I'm not in a physical space. I am surrounded by forest 360. I turn around, they're all behind me. In front of me, they're all to the right in front of me, and I felt such an incredible connection and deep support and complete acceptance and complete acknowledgement and such unconditional love and so absolutely overwhelmed in my heart. I felt I was visited by the spirit of the forest, and I was so overtaken that tears were coming through, and they came so close into me that they were right. Well, they were right. I would say on me, but touching me, and I could put my arm out, and my arm, of course, would not touch anything, but they would go right into the branches. And the sky was a beautiful. Sometimes it was a starry midnight blue. Sometimes it was a blue sky, and the profound experience of just being embodied by unconditional love. It was overwhelming. This is a love that, similarly to the colors that are unworldly, this was a love that was unworldly. And I do recall people who I have tuned into people's NDEs, their near-death experiences, and when they leave their body and they experience this unconditional love that is all so overwhelming. I can only liken it to potentially that. Not that I've had an NDE, but yeah, it was incredible. And one of the reflections that I took away from this is that there is a disconnection of this reality as a result of being separated from the source love that we are. And again, I go into that's the gap, and that's what causes the distortions and the disruptions in the mind and the body. But I felt I had a taste of what was real love. And as the spruce trees came in, they gradually disappeared, and the aspen forest came in, which I'm very connected to, and then they disappeared, and the palm trees, a forest of palm trees came in and surrounded me, and they disappeared. And then I had two rubber plants beside me, and they came in and they visited me. And then orchard trees came in and visited me. So I had these 5 forests that came in and just showed me the love. It was so overwhelming. So that was an experience. And so I wanted to know about I've had a number of experiences in my life that at a young age, and as mentioned, and whether it was my 9-year-old experience or as well as I've had family members passing, and they through their passing, I've had the opportunity to bridge the spiritual realm and the non-physical realm and the physical realm, because I've been able to connect with them. And again, through dreams and lucid dreaming, I've just bridged different realities together. And so through these experiences, I've had the awareness, I would say, to go through a redefinition of identity for myself, from who I am as the human construct to recognizing what I am as a spark of creation temporarily in this human form. Really just experiencing myself as a field of energy. I was actually given the message that you are not the body. You are a field of energy, and you are beyond the human mind's conceptions. So that is what I wanted to take into this dark retreat number 3. What is this field? What is this field around me? And so what I got and what I received, and this image similarly was in my mind's eye, it was not holographically, it was in my mind's eye, this field of energy. And interestingly, you can see kind of like, again, the points, the nodal points, which is very similar to the blueprint that I spoke about. So the field of energy I received is an emanation of source self, the self that I am, which is really the field of creation. And so it is alive and it's dynamic in direct response to the amount of attention and focus that I give it, that it receives. Therefore, the more I tune into this field that I am, the more I attune. And what I've received is that the more I tune in and attune to it, it actually offers a charge, it's like a charging station. I have the ability to charge, I don't know how else to express it, but to charge this field with my focus and attention. So when I am clear and attuned to my heart, there is this, the flow of this field is flows freely. I must be clear though, and I must be in my heart, and to really access the truth of myself. So again, beyond the human mind and what I call the divine mind. And going into this attunement and going into this charge and allowing this flow to happen, this was where this holds the potential and possibilities of the blueprint, which we spoke about, as encoded in the DNA to become active and exist within its potential and possibility. So as the blueprint becomes activated, so does the individual fields. Also then, of course, affecting the global consciousness as not only do we have a network, I see a network around me, we have a network globally as well. And we're one and the same, really. It is one and the same. So when I'm not clear, and in my mental or emotional or physical fields, there are distortions preventing this natural flow of creation. And I have had experiences within my physical body that have come up as health questions, let's say. And I have deeply, deeply dove into them with that reflection. This is a whole other, spin off to other conversations. But my understandings that it is because of the distortions that I had in my mind, in my mental fields, and in my emotional fields that created the disruptions in my body, because the physical body is the last place that it will land. So the goal in this understanding that I have now is to synergize all the senses, synergize all of my perceptions, to synergize all of my identity through the heart of creation by ways of the reconnection, the remembrance, and the recognition of the presence within me. So that is the field of creation. Through the reflection of this field of creation, one of the highlights of this field of creation, one was being the physical body, one was being the mental body and the emotional body. One of them was, we don't have time at the moment to go into those, that was shared with me, but what I did want to share was the nervous system that came through for me. And so in 2018, I heard the message, take care of your nervous system. And I thought that was a message for me personally, and I had no context to what that meant. I don't really have nervous system concerns per se. I'm not an overly anxious person, but I was just told, take care of your nervous system. So 2018, right ahead of that. And so the way, and I'll go into that, but the way I see the body is a bioelectromagnetic transmitter, and it's a conductor of energies. I often have always seen, I'm very connected to photons for some reason, perhaps synchronistically. It's kind of my nickname in some spaces, but I see the body as a biophotonic being, ultimately. So the reference to the 2018 take care of your nervous system, well, no later than maybe a year and a half later, the whole world kind of erupts and everyone's nervous system kind of went in different directions globally and individually. And so what I understood from that message was that, and later on down the way, is that there will be an extreme need for all people's nervous system to be taken care of. And I didn't know that until, well into 2020, 2021. So now the nervous system interfaces with that extended field that we just spoke about. There's a direct correlation to it. And the intention of the nervous system to be in this space of care is to be in a relationship of coherence and harmonization and synergy. Now, with the emotional body, mental body, physical body, the extended field, the outside world, all of that, that is a relationship of coherence. In order for that flow of creation to be clear and run. So I, of course, ask in my dark retreat 3 as I'm sitting there, how does this happen? How do I come into a space of coherence? And the answer I received was to defragment the self. Now, I don't know, back in the day, some of you may remember defragmenting the computer, and to basically taking all of the parts that were all over the place and putting them all back together, and they're in a synchronized, coherent kind of space. If you saw the little window on your computer screen, that was a process of defragmenting and putting it back into a fragmented space. So defragment the self to interface with existing light-coded operating system. That is how that was shared. So there are internal influences that it was shared that I can do. So it was clearing the mental, emotional patterns of fear and lack, which ultimately create the mind and body distortions. Those coming through the traumas, the stories, the judgments, the ancestral lineages, honestly looking into all of these factors and clearing those, integrating those, harmonizing those, and going into the cleansing of the body systems, any toxins, heavy metals, if those are out of balance, as much as possible. That will help to support the nervous system, etc., the field of creation around us. There is a process of, within this integration, there is a process of transmutation, which is like a spiritualized alchemy, and really is similarly, this is a metaphor that is used very often right now, is entering the chrysalis, which is the old self breaking down, which is dissolving, liquefying, if you will, if you want to take the butter and the caterpillar and the butterfly, liquefying the false identities and consolidating a truer self to be the inner alchemist, which I call the wizard. We all have, I have come to the understanding that within me is the inner alchemist, is the inner wizard. And so that is within all of us. So this is the integration, which is the allowance of the observation without judgment. And when do we know that this has happened? Our reactions dissolve. It's very similar to me speaking about the fear and that color red. I know that the change has happened when I am no longer triggered and I am no longer no longer a charge has surfaced. It has been integrated and harmonized. Once this harmonization happens, that's when an inner illumination can take place. And that's when the upgrading of the inner operating system can happen. And I do believe at the moment, there is a transmutational phase that we're in for those who are called. And I do believe that we are upgrading our inner operating systems for those who are called, really. There are, as we spoke about, internal influences. There are external influences that can have uh, an effect on the nervous system. Uh, and so one of the prompts that I had, and we'll talk about this later, is the awareness of the external reality being a theater, and to treat it as that, and to not become entangled in the theater, and to not become invested in the theater. The more entangled we are, and not to say to not make change, I'm not saying that at all, but to become entangled to become entangled in it to the point where our nervous system is affected and it's causing us distress or unease is not the point. That's not the point. So seeing the outer reality for what it is extremely critical at this point of time. And there are also a number of energetic upgrades that are happening. There's a lot of cosmic things that are happening. There's a lot of solar activity. There's activations happening from the inner core, and these too will even unknowingly affect our nervous system. So even at that, we take time to take care of ourselves in the way that we know we can. So we are moving from, I see it, from an incoherent state to a coherent state, a misaligned state to an aligned state, really going into equilibrium, really going into the unity of self. And even beyond that, as we are light, we are the consciousness of that light. We are the energy of the consciousness of that light. We are the field of that. Within the cells of this physical form, we have a nervous system. And when we come into an individual awareness of all of what we are, we go into a deeper cellular DNA connection. And that, if we really want to deepen it, and the ultimate, if there's any one ultimate fundamental, I want to say primary or primordial teaching that I have, is know thyself. And this pretty much sums it up. So let's go into additional images. These are fun. So again, these were seen holographically in my space. And in Dark Retreat 2 and 3, a theater seats appeared to me. And all I saw on the left were empty seats. And what I received is that life is a stage, and that we are the creators of our own play. We are the directors, we are the producers, we are the writers, we are the actors, we are the audience. And so that came continuously, so 2 and 3 continuously came to me. And that's my reference of the theater. And interestingly, the same friend who who was doing the Tibetan meditation, and I shared this with her, she said, well, that was one of Shakespeare's kind of quotes, and that this is very Shakespearean-like, and Shakespeare also said that as well, and that life is the theater. So Dark Retreat 2, as I was offering metta, which is like a loving kindness meditation, a Buddhist loving kindness offering. What I saw in front of me in the theater, monks started to appear, and they were very silent and they were very still, and they looked like they too were meditating. So it's like we were all meditating together, which was quite extraordinary. And then all of a sudden, I saw one of their hands go up, and then another hand go up, and then another hand go up, and then all of their hands go up. And I couldn't make sense of it. And I asked, why are their hands in the air? And I received, because peace has been achieved. And so I get a little emotional about this. I hope that in my lifetime, that we have this realization. because that is in my heart. So dark retreat number 3, um, again, the blues appeared. Uh, primarily the blues appeared very often as water scenes. And although I couldn't quite capture exactly what I saw, similarly to this scene on the right, there were I would often also put in ancient kind of relics on the bottom of this seafloor, maybe statues, kind of a bridge that I saw, and many water scenes. And what I received from this is that ancient water cities are yet to be discovered. They have been discovered, but more in the future they will be discovered, and that will also allow us to expand our awareness and understanding of what the history of humanity is and was, because I feel it's been so limited in what we've been told. So some additional images here. So various doors appeared, and this is as closely as possible as I could get. I did attempt to try and go through these doors. Just I saw them holographically in my space, and I would attempt to sort of take my consciousness and try and go through the doors. I haven't mastered that. Maybe that's a future exploration. Long underground passages. This one on the right, Dark Retreat number 2. These underground passages, I actually felt I was underneath a structure in this. Not even so much a cave, but a structure. And I honestly felt like I was underneath a pyramid. And this was a passage underneath some kind of an ancient structure. But again, and I did attempt to go forward, but I think that's for future Dark Retreat explorations. Again, all holographically seen in the space. I saw hot pink spiked flowers. This is Dark Retreat number 3. Things are getting a little bit more, again, structured, but also more intricate, I would say. In the middle, this is an actual picture of a Lemurian, beautiful Lemurian crystal. It's about, yes, maybe 6 inches long. So beautiful. It was gifted to me. I was holding it in my hand. As I was holding it in my hand, in front of me, the outlying cave that was appeared to me at that time, formations of peaks of crystal started to appear to me in the cave, and that was again like I feel it was a somatic representation, a mental, emotional sort of representation of the holographic imagery of me, what I was experiencing, and it appeared in the cave. So, as I came to the end of Dark Retreat number 2, and as I do within all dark retreats, I light a candle, and I sat down to light the candle at the end of Dark Retreat number 2. And just as a reminder, a context, this dark retreat, so much information, much of what I've shared today came through that dark retreat. And it was so heartfelt and it was so in depth. And I saw so much and felt so much. And I sat down and I offered, again, metta, may all beings be at peace. Just a little bit emotional, just bear with me. Bear with me. Thanks for your patience. There was an emotional uprising that came through, an enormous resistance came through me. that I had no idea where it was sourced from. An incredible amount of emotion came through. And I didn't want to come back. And I didn't want to leave that world of light and truth and clarity and beauty. It was so profound for me. I'm going to try and hold it together here. So, one of the things that I was reminded of in that moment, actually, again, I have done a little bit of, maybe a lot, of listening to people who have gone through their near-death experiences, and they never wanted to come back. They're like, no, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. Forget that. And I did not want to come back. And so I just didn't want to leave that world. And then what started to happen is that there was a pain that came within me. Not only didn't I not want to leave, but as pain came through me. And I had gone through the process, now that I've shared, of my entire timeline, my entire blueprint, and many things that were shown to me. And that one of the things that were shown to me, as in now I'm getting this feeling like I'm going through a life review in this moment. This is in my mind's eye, not holographically, in my mind's eye. I was going through a life review, and I could see when I had shut down the love within me and the light within me. And I realized the who that I so strongly believed that I was, and that they were really, my fears were protecting me in good faith, and not in judgment, but good faith. They were protecting me to keep me safe at that time, as fears do. They were suppressing the essence of what I am and the truth of what I am. And so at that time, I believed so strongly in the false light of who I was, that this created a misaligned identity. And the pain deepened even beyond that. My entire chest cavity was in so much pain because the realization that I had lost sight of the truth and the light and the heart of what I am, and that I enabled this to happen in supporting my own separation, was so painful. It was heart-wrenching. There were tears everywhere. And I could barely contain myself. So then what happened is then my perception from my individuated self expanded into humanity. And I felt the unacknowledged pain in humanity that were hidden in the hearts and of the people, and that the people were also separated from the love that they are. And as we continue to blindly believe in these false truths within ourselves and within this hypnotic reality, really a hypnotic reality of being asleep to ourselves and asleep to the truth of what we are. So even more so, even deepening, I for some reason became a vessel for this pain of humanity, and I don't know why. And it was absolutely overwhelming. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't. It was like this went on for maybe 20 to 30 seconds, but I just couldn't maintain this state until I kind of had to regroup, and I was reminded. Once this feeling came through my body, and for whatever reason, I guess I was this vessel for it, I was reminded that I really did need to go back. I couldn't stay there. And the purpose was to come back and to continue to recognize and express the truth and reclaim the love and shine the light. And so I finally did light the candle. And I will share with you the candle is lit, it is the brightest, like so bright. It's very my eyes are I have to close my eyes when I light the candle because it is so bright. And that then illuminates the room and all of the holographic images disappear. So to wrap this up, I want to share with you just some of my takeaways. So, although this seemingly solid reality that I wake up to every morning, and this I feel now fairly conclusively is that this reality is a holographically projected reality through the projection of my own consciousness, interpreted through the construct of my mind. And my intention in this existence is just to be in uh, just a second, is to be in graceful flow of creation through this vessel I call the body, this vessel I call a vehicle. Uh, so, and that the essence of love is 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 ever present and accessible always, always, always when I am clear and when I'm in my heart. And there is, from my perception, there is a deeper understanding that humanity has lost sight, ironically, as I sit in the dark, has lost sight of itself, large capital self, true self, replacing the heart with the mind of matter and construct and a materialist perception of reality. And that the greatest pain I carry is the truth of love that I have denied myself, for myself, and for others. And that every morning that I wake up, I open my eyes and I know in my heart that what I open my eyes to is not a true reality, that this reality is a dream. And the point is to wake up in this dream, to become lucid in this dream that is called reality. And how? Is to recognize the origin of what I am and to realize who the mind has believed itself to be. And to be very clear on that. And if one desires, if the soul desires, that humanity is on its way to recognizing and remembering the truth of what we are, by unlearning who we were and remembering we are part of the wholeness, that I am not a human being, I am being human. I'm temporarily in human form and experiencing this time and space as a spark of creation. And that life in itself, life is being in form and informed. It is a gift, and when present, magic appears. And after these dark retreats, I can say I am the light of my life, literally, and that the unification of self from within is primary and to lead with the heart. And that All is one, and I am that. I so thank you for your interest and your attention. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing. And if any of you have any questions, uh, feel free to ask them.
Yes. Wow. Thanks, Corinne. Wow. Just wow. I'm kind of speechless. And as you know, I want to do this too at some point. Uh, I've been exploring the different possibilities, and you and I have looked at all sorts of retreats all over the world. But how about you leading one? What are you thinking of possibly leading?
Yes, thank you, Una, for that
Yes.
question. That definitely came through um, at the beginning at Dark Retreat number one. And I was trying to figure out venues, how to have a venue that would have a private room with a bathroom attached, because my personal opinion is that people need to be in their own space. So
Yeah.
finding a venue that will host the physical space in that way is important. It's important, and then
Yeah.
being able to have the means to darken the rooms. Yeah, so it's finding a space.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yes. Yes. So just to everyone on the call, if you want to, you can write questions into the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and ask your questions. It was so much information. I had to write things down. It seems like this is almost addictive, right?
yes,
Going into a dark room when you do
yes,
it this way.
absolutely. Yeah, I will share that that wasn't all of it. So I captured as much as I could to make it somewhat presentable.
Yes. Yeah. I know there's lots of dark rooms in different parts of the world, and they are organized differently. Sometimes you're sharing a room with somebody. Sometimes uh, you are given instructions through microphones. Of course, ventilation is also a problem.
That's
You
right.
need fresh air,
That's right.
and time. You need to know, what time it is. If you don't have the sun going up and down, and you don't have a clock telling you what time it is, what do you do?
Yes, I will go back to ventilation. So I turned my bathroom fan on at least a couple hours during the day, and that helped to take air out. It didn't put air in, but it took air out. That's a very good point, Una. And I, in order for me to be able to have some structure of timing so I could sleep properly and to not wake up at 2 a.m. and then get all my sleep cycle not arranged well, I had my phone on airplane mode in a sock so I could verbally ask what time it was and I could verbally receive it. So I would know when to eat and I would know when to go to bed. And when I woke up, I would just yell. I would yell in the room, "What time is it?" And I would know.
Okay. And do you think it's important to know what time it is, or could you just go with your by your rhythm?
Yeah, I don't, I would say I wouldn't trust my sleep cycle enough to say I have gone to bed for 4 hours and thinking it was seven. I and then wake up and then come out 4 days later and not and then be so out of sync. I needed to have some
Hmm.
kind of synchronicity with my
Right.
timing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because what comes up for me is then you've got some noise, because otherwise I assume there's basically also no noise except for the refrigerator.
I didn't really hear the fridge. It was very
Okay.
silent. I only occasionally heard some popping sounds. A pop. in the closet of my bedroom, but it wasn't a buzzing.
Okay.
Yeah, don't know what that
Did
was.
you have company?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, can I just share? I did have company at some points, and I didn't really even go into this, but I came out of the shower at one point, and in my closet there was a luminescent ring of light in would
Mhm.
be the top closet of my the shelf of my closet, and I thought, oh, I must have put my reflective frisbee up at the top of that shelf. But that reflective frisbee needs light to be reflective, and there hadn't been light for hours. And I thought, I'll go and check it out later. I went back, and that reflective ring was gone.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. We've got a question here. Corinne, have you ever done this experience within a secure and sacred environment with anyone else? It feels like a lot of souls could find guidance through this wonderful and also potentially fearful experience to accelerate the wake-up process.
yes, no. So, personally, again, complete novice, only doing it on my own. I do know that in a retreat setting, there is opportunity for guidance. For example, if someone ran into fear or someone was running into an uneasiness, that guidance can either the person can go in and the light, they would have to wear a mask to have guidance and get a one-on-one there, or guidance can be given through the door. I do know
Mhm.
that. So, um, yes.
Yeah.
But I,
So also,
yeah,
yeah, we've got a comment here. Seeing luminescent light in the dark sounds amazing. Yeah.
yeah, I had no idea. I really had no idea that this was going to come through. And for me, after about the 36-hour mark, it became through the 3 trees, and I have no expectation when I go into the fourth. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that this is now my experience.
Yeah. You know, about waking up, I remember Dranvalo Melchizedek saying something about, he asked the Kogis, how do we wake up the whole world? Because
Yes.
what they do is they train their priest caste. They, when they're born, they're kept in a cave and they only see dawn and dusk, but no proper light for 9 years. So the Kogi said, absolutely no problem. You just keep people in the dark for 9 days, 9 nights, and keep them awake, dancing.
Aha.
So it wasn't quite as practical as as we wish, of course. But
Yes.
obviously, you've taken huge steps towards it. I was also going to ask you. There's quite a lot of courses now that deal with seeing without eyes.
Yeah.
These courses where you see children riding bicycles blindfolded with absolutely no light and so on. And it seems like you may have touched a little bit on that, that you could see with your brain instead of your eyes, but not necessarily the room. Right.
Yes. Yes. I have looked into those programs, and I was curious about them because I was wondering how that translated for me. And as I'm understanding, they see their physical reality as it is, even that appear to them, even through the eye blind, and they can read and play. And
Mhm.
I guess the difference in my experience, I am in a completely different holographic reality that is not at all reflective of the physical reality that I'm in. So
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so that what I guess would be the difference. And I guess I would say that potentially, maybe simply, this is a projection of my consciousness that I'm seeing holographically.
Yeah. 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 which is why the things pop up that you've got in your head. And if you've got fear in your head, fear pops up. And if you've got love in your head, that's what pops up.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've
And
got
it's
another comment here. Your dark retreat experience reminds me of a scene from the Star Wars movie, The Empire Strikes Back. Yoda sends Luke into a dark cave and tells him Luke will only see what he brings with him. Luke ends up in a fight because he is aggressive. And that's what we say when we go into sweat lodges. What you take in actually becomes bigger.
That's right. Absolutely. And then I will pull that into this reality because what we have within then gets bigger and that becomes expanded. So it's so critical and it's so imperative to me to always make that translation. What is it that is within me? Because that is then therefore what is being basically created.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Some of the things you mentioned also sound a little bit like astral travel, or did you feel you could do that when you were walking through landscapes? Like you say you saw landscapes, but did you feel you could astrally walk through the landscapes?
Well, was physical walking, which I certainly could do, and it would go on forever, but I would bump into a wall.
Mm-hmm.
That it would extend itself holographically.
Mm-hmm.
That so yes on that. On the level of if I saw a door or if I saw a cavern that was like a tunnel, could I could I take my mind, which is similarly to an astral travel, could I take my mind and go through the door? Um, I started to on second my second dark retreat, and I started to make movement, but I got slowed down. So I think there's more exploration in that.
And I think one could, if the mind wouldn't say this is a door. It's like fire walking. If your mind is telling you this is hot, it's going to burn you, you are going to get burned, right?
That's right. That's right. Well,
Yeah.
and I look forward to the potential and possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Now, how would you say this experience compares to plant medicine?
Okay. Yes. I can share that I have done my most significant plant medicine experience was a trilogy with ayahuasca, which was the tea, I would say, fortunately, was very, very, very strong. And so I had a very good in-depth uh, journey. And I would say, where shall I start? One of the things with plant medicine is that there's a communion with the medicine and it almost takes over. And
Yes.
that there I found is it was very important for me to surrender. I learned surrender very quickly in the plant medicine. And I had to become part of for example, the Paisley patterns, or I had to learn allowance very quickly. Um, and so it felt like the plant medicine directed me more than I had the ability to direct. And it would take me. After I settled down, could be co-directed, but there was so much influence of that psychoactivity that often my brain couldn't compute. And I will also say that some of my a very profound experience in my plant medicine is that I actually met my brother who we didn't know was not on the planet anymore. So the ability to connect that way spiritually is very strong. The difference is that as I was in my dark retreat, I was in full control.
Hmm.
Nothing was out of my control. Now the visuals, could I turn off? When I went to bed and I closed my eyes, they were all, nothing changed. Everything, it was either in a cave or the palm trees on the walls or, um, but when I really kind of focused inward, 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 I would finally get them to disappear. But there was much more sense of control and
Hmm.
and lucidity. Whereas plant medicine was really, I was hanging on sometimes for dear life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And you did mention at some point that there were images that came that you knew did not come from your own mind. Where do you think they came from?
Yeah.
Other minds, astral minds?
That's a great question. I would say in Dark Retreat number 3, when I started to see like helmeted people, which were a little bit ominous, uh, I would say either from the depth of my subconscious or picking something up. It's just, as I will often
Mhm.
do, I'll pick up words or sayings or sentences that I don't know, maybe they're from my neighbor. I'm just picking
Mhm. Yeah.
stuff up. And I do have to make sure I do have to create boundaries around that. So how much of that sort of biophotonic electromagnetic being that we are, the receivers and transmitters, am I picking up that I don't know of? Um, a little bit unknown on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. You know, just to finish off, I'm glad you don't agree with fasting because the ones I've looked at, some of them do only eat 2 meals or very light meals. So that's a big plus for me. But wow, Corinne, you've just spent hour. What is it? 2.5, 3.5 hours? I can't.
Gosh, is it 3 hours? Oh my gosh.
It's 2.5 hours. Yes.
Okay, wow.
So thank you so much. This has been deeply touching. We've got wonderful messages in our chat, and wow, I just I'm speechless. I just want to do this.
Oh,
I
thank
really,
you.
really, really want to do this. Yeah,
Uh, Thank
really.
you. I thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for creating the space and allowing, yeah, me to share and prompting me to share. And it was fun. It was fun. And I do thank you to everyone who has tuned in and still here and for your attention and your presence.